Hello and welcome to the F1 Sim Racing World Championships. It is round 10 and we are racing in Brazil today. An iconic circuit that always delivers. Now, yesterday, we saw the championship lead swing to Jarno Opmeer after victory in Mexico. But with 3 rounds still to go, there are plenty of points on the table. Still all to play for. We are qualifying up first, but we're going to head over and kick things off talking telemetry with our very own Marcel Kiefer.
Welcome and good morning, everyone. I'm here with a very important person to Alpine. This is Mr. Tomek Poracic. He's the engineering lead, and I will let you introduce yourself, even though I already did.
Yeah, hello everyone. I do what people think is the boring stuff of F1 esports, but I actually think it's quite interesting, and we hope to show you a little bit of that right now.
So for you guys out there that are maybe just a casual F1 game enjoyer or a casual sim racer, F1 fan, this is the side that you usually don't see, but even the real F1 teams, they do this very intense. So I would say let's get into it and have a little look into the detailed world of telemetry in F1 sim racing.
Yeah, let's go ahead.
All right, so here we are, and first things first, what can you actually see on the screen, Tomek? What can we take from this?
Well, this is basically driving turned into numbers. The horizontal line means the distance, and the vertical lines are the inputs. So from the top down, we have the RPM, then we have the gears, throttle, and braking. These are all expressed in different units. We don't have to get into that. But basically, what we are looking for is a descriptive way of our driver driving. So there's only so much we can tell from watching their onboards, from watching how they drive. And there is, with the level you've seen in F1 esports in the recent years, some differences are so tiny you won't see them on the onboards, and this is why we need this.
Okay, so can we just get into a couple of the basics? I mean, we have these amazing tools that we can work with. And for example, this line here, this is the throttle, I assume?
Yes,
okay.
correct.
And we have also the brake down here. So if we take both of these just as an example for someone that doesn't know how to accelerate in F1 sim racing properly to maximize everything out of the car, are you accelerating like this here where it's a bit more hectic, or how would be the perfect line to accelerate depending on the corner type?
It's all very corner dependent. It also depends on your setup. Obviously, what we see here is quite aggressive of an input, quite all over the place. This would not make the rear of the car too stable. Okay. We are more looking for a line that will be a little bit more progressive to the end, while still fast. And obviously, since the cars don't have traction control, we can't make it completely vertical. So it's always a fine line between, let's say, reaching the maximum of the car, but not destabilizing it.
Okay, amazing. So every driver, they are maximizing it at every single corner as much as possible. And obviously, it's also depending on the setup, like you've already mentioned. So depending on the braking, how does it look for the braking? Is it also a smooth, slow input, or is it more like an aggressive slamming on the brakes so you maximize everything off the car?
Well, the technique is trail braking. To put it very simply, it's slamming the brakes on the first attempt, or on the when you hit the brake, you need to be very aggressive with it. The car has a lot of downforce at that point, so it can handle that, but then as you lean into the corner, you need to start letting the brake off while still keeping a little bit of it for rotation. It's a very fine technique, it's a very fine line, but yeah, it's a combination of both. You need to slam it on the first input has to be a straight vertical line, as we've seen it earlier, and then you have to slowly lift it off, not do it too fast, not do it too slow, and yeah, that's how you extract pace.
Okay, and so what is the most important thing that a driver has to look out for in F1 sim racing? I mean, in F1 we have a lot of parameters, the cars are different. Here we have the performance of the cars being equal. So what are like the 2 most important things that you look into in telemetry to gain the maximum pace from each driver?
Well, the simple answer here would be throttle and brake, as this is something that the drivers directly control with their inputs. But usually it goes a lot deeper than that. If we see one driver braking slightly earlier, then it's almost all the time it's like never the full story. Usually it comes down to other differences in driving. So the simple answer is throttle and brake, but in reality it's always a combination of things, and this is our job as engineers to make sure we find what that combination is and deliver it to the driver in an understandable way.
Okay, amazing. One more thing. because we already talked about the braking and you talked through how you have to hit the brakes, would you be able to demonstrate us on the telestrator how you actually have to slam the brakes and what the usual brake trace would look like in an ideal corner, let's say a hairpin?
Yeah, of course.
Let's take
Go ahead.
So the brake trace is the lowest segment of this screen. So how would you actually do it if you are an F1 sim racing driver?
All right, so, well, as I said, it starts off with a vertical line. You really need to slam on the brakes. Any sort of delay here is loss of time. Then for a certain amount of time, as I said, the car has downforce from the speed it's going at, so it can stay at this 100% level. And then you gotta slowly lean it off in a, let's say, constant manner, I would say. The key thing here is to keep the brake for as long as possible until you actually go on the throttle. You don't want to spend any time with neither of the inputs being applied. So you need to make sure that you apply the brake in a way that you get off it the second you get on the throttle.
Okay, thank you so much, Tomek. And I hope you guys out there enjoyed this as well. Also, big thank you to Alpine for providing this amazing man for us. And yeah, next time we will have a deeper look into the other elements of telemetry.
Who was nicknamed the Professor in Formula One?
No idea.
No idea.
Oh, no, it's David Coulthard, I don't know.
Leclerc? No. The Professor? Gasly? No.
Lauda.
Niki Lauda.
The Professor in F1 was for Alan Prost.
Prost, sorry. Yeah.
The Professor. Oh, Alain Prost.
It's Alain Prost. Oh.
Deleted, man.
Which track is famously known as the Temple of Speed?
It's Monza.
Monza. And rightly so, that's a quick track.
What year did Ayrton Senna win his first F1 World Championship?
Oh my God, I should know this.
Oh,
Oh, God.
that's not good.
It's 80 something.
88?
88?
88.
88.
88.
83.
87.
I think it's going to be 89. 88 with McLaren.
I'm shocked that I know it.
And then P4. 4 because that car is pretty damn nice.
Hello and welcome to the desk. Let's kick things off, shall we? I'm delighted to be joined once again by Alex Jakes and Matt Gallagher, who are going to be taking care of us on commentary and alongside me here on the desk throughout today. Guys, welcome, welcome. It's heating up a little bit, Event 3 now, isn't it?
It is, after the calm serenity that we had a couple of hours into Event 1. That has vanished. The competition is intense. And yeah, blood pressures have gone up. There's the two big titles to be won. And yeah, looking forward to the racing today because we're at such a good track today.
We really are. Brazil is such a special one. It always delivers. But Matt, what were your thoughts on yesterday in Mexico?
A lot of thoughts. Of course, a lot of things went down. The main talking point, I think, in terms of the championship is, of course, Ron Haar faltering. Red Bull coming to the fray with Jarno Opmeer, of course, winning the race and taking the Drivers' Championship lead. Red Bull now on top in the teams as well. So a massive shift over literally just one of the 4 races we have in Event 3. How it will change in these next 3, who knows? But Brazil is going to be very hard to predict. It's absolutely our favourite, I think everybody in this room's favourite track, just purely because qualifying, which is obviously what everyone's here for right now, will be the closest thing you'll ever see. And then the race as well, you've got plenty of options for strategy. So looking forward to it.
Oh, it's going to be a good one. Before we delve a little bit deeper into Brazil, let's just have a little look back at how things unfolded in Mexico.
Danny Beresne is done. He's in 11th. One Mercedes out in Q1, one Mercedes out in Q2. Can the McLarens find their way through? Lucas Blakely is out. Nothing for Alfie Butcher as well. Thomas Ron Haar, can he find his best lap at the end? Oh, he got it!
Come on!
He got it at the end!
But the gold's gone!
It feels amazing. To get pole is a very good feeling. We have amazing pace, we have an amazing team behind the scenes, and yeah, can't wait for the race.
Making contact! His front wing is damaged. Ron Haar's championship flashes in front of his eyes. You heard the pip of DRS. Could be 2 in 1 to take the race lead. 3rd to 1st in one corner to lead in Mexico City.
Winning is always a good feeling. It's always fun to fight back through the pack. And then also strategy was great for both me and Fred, going long in the first stint on the mediums and then moving on to the hards. We almost did a 50-50 on the mediums and the hards, so that was great.
So that was Mexico yesterday, but there is still some, I don't want to call it drama.
It is drama. It's drama.
Okay,
Let's go with drama.
fine.
Big drama.
We'll go with drama. Bubbling within the studio because after the race yesterday, several teams lodged complaints with the stewards over some of the sportsmanship, shall we say. Shall we dig into that a little bit and run through these penalties? Alex, talk us through what has happened here and the resulting penalties.
Yeah, so Danny Beresnay got a warning for causing avoidable contact. Josh Edu denying another vehicle racing room 1 second. The big one and the main talking point from yesterday, Jules Autódromo given a disqualification for unsportsmanlike behaviour in-game. And to look at the actual steward's press release here, involved in an incident as defined by Article 1C of F1 Sim Racing's Participant Handbook. He had 5 points deducted, 5 penalty points added to his record. He lost the points that he'd scored this year. He was disqualified from the race and disqualified from qualifying today. It all amounts to deliberately running off the pace as a result to try and influence the race results. They were all warned about this in the driver's briefing. And if you're thinking, why is the penalty not more extreme for trying to mess with the outcome like that? That is the harshest penalty available to the stewards. It's a really controversial moment, but those are the facts. That's where we stand.
Thank you, Alex. Matt, we knew yesterday after the race that people weren't happy, and as I said, several teams did lodge complaints. And as Alex has just explained, that penalty that has been served is what the stewards can do. But it definitely puts an air of something in here, doesn't it? It changes the dynamic, it changes the atmosphere between all of these teams.
It does, yeah. A lot of the teams felt aggrieved, as we've mentioned. The drivers,
shot, isn't it?
Yeah, they. That's that's the only time we'll ever see an empty rig going into qualifying. But that is the penalty that's been given out. And as Alex said, all the teams were warned about messing with the outcome of any session. And we now head into Brazil, where yes, the tension is much higher.
Yeah.
And we will see how it unfolds from there. But you have to say, yeah, the stewards, they've put that penalty out there. It's what's been done. We now have to move to Brazil.
We do indeed. Let's just have a look at the results from yesterday, given those penalties that have been served. Alex, do you want to just quickly talk us through it?
So Jarno Opmeer winning the race and taking the championship lead. Barry Burman doing incredibly well to finish second with tyres that did not have the grip. Otis Lawrence was in contention for victory. In the end, though, wasn't happy with the wing level on the car, finished in third. Freddie Rasmussen moved over for his teammate, played the team game, finished fourth. He had a chance to compete, but he let Opmeer through at a crucial time. Then it was Manley, Longue, Fassi, Butcher, Hoffland and Lucas Blakely scoring the final points. Joris Kroesen, Alvaro Caraton, Thomas Gao, and then Danny Beresnay, who had contact. We'll move our way through. Savo Konyi, Pookie, and the key name down there in 17th place after having a collision, after losing the end plate, Thomas Ronhaar, down in 17th, ahead of Brendan Lee. Autódromo, who was disqualified as well. And the effect it has, Matt, on the driver's standings is stark. You're the only person who's tipped Jarno Opmeer to win this title. He now leads it with 3 to go.
Who would have thought one of my predictions actually correct?
It happened.
At the moment, at least.
14
14 points clear, as you can see. Very close indeed between Ronhaar, Fassi and Buramand, the chasing pack. And as we saw from literally yesterday, this championship can turn on its head so quickly. And we're looking at the second page there. Of course, Brendan Lee down in 19th with 1 point and not racing today as well. So that will be the first time Brendan Lee sat out, I can probably ever for the champion.
The ever present.
Exactly. And then over to the constructors. Again, all change at the top. We thought Mercedes were absolutely onto something, and they were for the majority of this season, but they had one time of faltering, and Red Bull took full advantage. 9 points clear at the top. Ferrari still have a shot as well with 3 races to go. And then it's a big old fight between Williams and Kick Sauber for P4.
It is all just so close, isn't it? As we've seen things swinging from just one race, and we still have 3 to go. So those standings are by no means locked in. Let's have a little look at how things are unfolding over the next couple of days. As we've said, we are qualifying and racing today, firstly in Brazil, and then later on today we head to Qatar, to the Losail International Circuit. And then tomorrow, for the final day and the final round, we head to Abu Dhabi and Yas Marina Circuit, and we'll be crowning our champions. So it is all action over the next couple of days, and we are delighted to be bringing you all of the action from here. And we are joined now again by Marcel Kiefer. Marcel, thank you for joining us. It's a busy couple of days we've got ahead of us, isn't it?
We do, and I think the drivers and teams even more. But I think the stewards have the toughest job this event, because we saw it already yesterday. You already discussed it a couple of minutes ago. I think it's just going to get more and more crazy from here on. I don't think I think there will still be a lot of controversy coming up, and it's just going to play into this whole championship.
Teams and drivers have long memories, don't they?
Yes.
Yes. People are going to be on high alert, I think, definitely. Let's talk a little bit about the circuit, though, shall we? Marcel, tell us a bit about it. We've got some of the stats here. You guys feel free to jump in as well on what we've seen over previous years.
I mean, in general, this, I think, especially yesterday, I said, it's a Red Bull track in Mexico. I think this one should probably be the weakest for them. So maybe there's a bounce back from Mercedes, as Danny Beresnay has a strong history here. Usually, like, his pace was always good, even though the results don't show that too much, unfortunately.
I love as well with Brazil, we've literally had a different winner every single year. And that just...
What was going on in 2019, though?
Hold
on a minute. What's that, an all-star in second place?
Tom Deacon would have said you just missed out on the win.
Yeah, Tom Deacon would have given you the gap that you were behind the win.
Yeah.
We know he's not here because he's indulging his love of antiquing this week.
It's crazy because you two were already commentating back then on me fighting with Nico. So
it was a great race. It was a great race.
And look at you now. Now you're here joining us. What a treat. Let's delve into the track a little bit more with Alfie Butcher, shall we?
So obviously it's important to get a nice run out of the last corner, starting your lap into turn 1. You've obviously got first 2 corners, which is a chicane. So it's important to make sure that you maybe sacrifice the first and then make sure you get a good exit onto the straight off turn 2. Obviously then you've got the DRS zone, second of the lap, going into turn 4. It's important that you carry a lot of speed through into the corner, maximise the track, and obviously carry that into the sector 2. Then you've got a long sweeping right-hander where you obviously have to carry as much speed as possible, which then quickly changes into many short corners. A quick flick right and then a long left-hander where it's quite slow speed. And then obviously you're going into the right-hander, almost finishing off sector 2. It's important to get a good exit onto there to finish off the lap. And then you're going into sector 3, where it's the last corner, obviously one where you need to make sure you get the best exit of them all to make sure that you can be there for any opportunities. And yeah, give yourself the best finish to the lap as possible.
Thank you very much to Alfie for helping us out with that. Let's dig into the track info a little bit more, shall we? We've got some more info that will pop up on the screen. Alex, talk us through some of the characteristics of this iconic circuit.
Oh, well, it's a different test for qualifying, but in the race, you'll get turn 1, turn 2, all the way down the hill to turn 4 being great overtaking opportunities, and then it's wait for your next chance. The exit out of turn 12 is so important. You carry that momentum all the way through to turn number 1. But it's a narrow track, isn't it, Matt, when you come to qualifying and the risk of invalidating?
Very true, yeah. This one, as we've said, the margins are going to be so close, so they can't leave anything on the table around here, otherwise you will be knocked out in Q1. This circuit is just brilliant, isn't it? I'm so excited. I would have an entire season with just Brazil. That would absolutely tick every box for me. But yeah, I know we're hyping up how close qualifying is going to be, but Marcel, you've driven around here. The gaps are just outrageous.
They are. It's similar to Zandvoort, just it leads actually even to more mistakes because tires, depending on the game version, like in some games we had less trouble with the tire temps. On this one, I don't know, but there's actually a lot of things that the drivers have to look out for, especially in the middle sector and towards the end. And also the weather usually plays into it a lot. So there's a huge mix-up of things, of kind of elements that play into it, and you just always have to deal with the craziness of Interlagos.
The craziness of Interlagos. I can't wait. And on that note, it is time to hand over to you guys as you take us through qualifying. Enjoy, and I'll be back after.
Thanks very much. Bravo's off to her deck chair, which is just out of shot over there, to relax and watch things. And we're off to the Circuit Carlos Pace. And we're looking forward to this at a wonderful racetrack. Here it is, the Autódromo, right in the middle of Sao Paulo, the scene of some amazing days for F1 esports. That incredible run up the hill that we were talking about. It's not a long track, but it's an intense one, and it is going to be brilliant to see who takes pole, because every single time that we run an event around here, that we run a round of the championship around here, it's fine margins all the way, and the battling seems to go all the way to the line. You are looking across the studio right now. We are in Q1, and we've got a competition renewed. 21 competing in the, sorry, 21, I've applied Formula 2 rules. 19 competing in the order after that penalty was applied to Jurash Alzodarem after he was found to have interfered with the session, effectively slowed down to cause an outcome of the race elsewhere, and a very strong penalty as a result. Now, 19 competing, and we find ourselves in the early stages in what Matt Gallagher likes to call the podcast phase of Q1.
And also the weather report phase.
Oh,
I've had a look.
Yeah, go on.
And for Brazil, an entirely dry qualifying, which I'm happy about.
Yeah,
I don't
same.
want any weather affecting and having like a really short Q3 or anything like that. We have got, 3 really exciting sessions coming up, and I cannot wait to see it. We've got, of course, Donoso in the Aston Martin there. Good to see him back out on track alongside Otis Lawrence, of course, who finished P3 yesterday. Marcel, how are the drivers feeling coming into this qualifying session? The pressure is on, 3 races to go. Put us in the mind of the driver.
I mean, honestly, this is probably one of the toughest ones, because we have 2 races today. If you mess up any of the sessions, some of the drivers, they just never get out of this negative sort of mindset that they messed up and they are super furious. So you want to carry as much momentum as possible throughout the day without completely wasting your energy. You always want to have some kind of steady approach, which still works out to basically always put it on pole, which usually doesn't happen. But you know, some drivers, they have this dog in them. So
they have the dog in them.
I love it. What a great line. Also, I say, no Brendan Lee on the grid. Taiho Hardy is the driver who steps in for him for his first start in the championship, and he's going to be trying to get through into the next stage of qualifying. And you look at the Dutchman who is competing today alongside one of our championship contenders, and we have Thomas Ronhaar on the other side of your picture. Good luck to Mr. Hardy as he gets up and running around, and that's such a tough place to make your debut, but 2 rounds for him as well. And that is the enjoyment of it. We've got Qatar later on, and then tomorrow is Decider Day as a result, as we make our way around an utterly serene arena at this stage, but that's all going to change. Everyone just waiting for the time to tick down, everyone waiting for the opportunity to go out there and do what they've been practicing for so long. Otis Lawrence looks like he wishes it was a couple of hours later that he was able to compete.
As well. There we are. All relaxed. Might have a little snooze before we get underway in Q1. A driver that, of course, I think a lot of us are interested to see their mentality and how they're going to bounce back is Thomas Ronhaar, who lost a huge amount of points yesterday. He put a post out on social media, said, "Don't worry, nothing is lost yet." That's what he said. Whether that's the mentality he actually has, or if he's trying to, put up a good guard against what happened yesterday. There he is.
It might, given what happened into Event 1 and his response in Event 2, I would posit that it might actually help, because nothing is going to go to plan across the entirety of an event of 4 races. So it's happened early, and it now puts him back on the attack rather than going into, management mode. You don't try and make the bold moves, you pull your punches, you end up collecting a load of 3rd places and you lose it that way. He's back in, I've got to win, I've got to outscore the man you're looking at in your picture, Jarno Opmeer, who is 3 races away from the three-peat.
Oh, there it is.
There we go.
Beautifully dropped in the Q1 podcast. We love to see it. I think, yeah, there's part of it that, of course, the pressure comes off a little bit on Ronhaar, but at the same time, he wants to be a champion, and giving up 25 points to Jarno Opmeer is absolutely not what would have been on his agenda. So he can easily bounce back. He's fantastic in qualifying. He, of course, scored a point yesterday heading into the Mexico City Grand Prix. He could easily do that again, but it's going to be a difficult one, isn't it, Marcel?
It will be, but I think if there's one guy that can do it, then it's Thomas. I mean, we've seen, like you've already mentioned, in Event 1, he was just making mistakes. Now Event 2 was way better, he knew that. Yesterday, it was sort of his mistake. I think he wouldn't have made the corner, but it also was the collision with Danny. It was more like a racing incident, and then he lost just everything from it. So I think if he bounces back today with 2 strong races, then nothing is lost, like he said.
Looking at Ismail Fassi, who is still a contender for this title. He finds himself on 98 points. Jarno Opmeer leads on 113. You've also got Barry Burmond on 93, Otis Lawrence on 79. Lawrence has scored points in all but one of the races so far this year. Barry Burmond, the driver in front of him, by contrast, has not scored on 4 occasions, but when he has, he's been at the top end. 7th place in Silverstone, the rest of the time, wins or second places. And he looks racked with nerves, doesn't he? As we build up for Q1. He's laughing with Nicholas Longay, both of them in conversation.
Longay's been watching the broadcast, I think, for most of it.
He's been having fun.
He's having a little sneaky
Poor old
look.
Nicholas has had when we've watched Matt all year, he's been in the background in the shot. So we have to get him a beer at the end of the show for being the guy in the background all season long. And there's Barry Burmond. He shouldn't really be distracting the drivers in the middle of Q1.
Hey, they looked over to us.
He did. And we hope that he can put together. I really want to see the best of him in the final races as well, because we know he's got a lot of pace. We know it's been a difficult time for him. You'd never want to see a driver who's committed so many hours to it not get a day in the spotlight. We've had so many different winners this year, and he will be hoping that he gets through into the next part of qualifying and can extract the pace that we know he's had. He's got multiple pole positions in this championship.
Why don't we go and hear from Barry Burmond?
One kiss is all it takes. Falling in love with me. Possibility. Imagine if they actually show it in the broadcast. I would be embarrassed a little bit. One kiss is all it takes. Falling in love with me.
That was so good. Copyright strike incoming.
Yeah, that's a nightmare. So yeah, we're gonna have to take this stream down.
Thanks for watching, everyone.
Barry's gonna have to give up his entire salary for singing that on the broadcast. Never mind. Bad luck, Barry.
But we were obviously reflecting on Longay, and I don't think we've ever heard a bigger crescendo of noise than when we had about 6 drivers come over the line, all take what felt like provisional pole, and Longay came over last, and we went, Longay! And it was just one of the greatest qualifying sessions we've ever seen.
Yeah.
But yeah, for Longay, we know that he can do it, and we saw moments of that even in Mexico qualifying. You know, Q2, Barry was saying, I've just PB'd. Oh, your lap was a banger as well. They were loving life. They weren't able to translate that as well, 4th and 10th in Q3. They need a big result, do Ferrari, to try and take the fight to the 2 teams ahead of them in the Teams Championship. And of course, for Barry, it would be quite the champions campaign if he was to win the championship with 4 non-scores so far.
Yeah.
But it can happen.
It's been that kind of year. Ferrari on 138 points, Red Bull on 174, and they have managed to move up into first position past Mercedes, who are on 165 at the start of play. Should we bring you some cars on the circuit?
Yes, please.
8 minutes to go. Enter Ferrari into the conversation, as we will leave the pit lane mercifully. Everyone understandably waiting. And there's not much of a difference between bringing you. We haven't got Brendan Lee in the field today, so we didn't have any interlaps to enjoy. Bit of a drift contest. But here we go, the crucial run down to turn number 4. So you're plunging downhill here. You can see quite a narrow circuit. Cars pouring out onto the circuit at this stage. Everyone using the soft rubber and preparing for the first push laps in Q1. And then you see how narrow it is at this point. I always think into Fedadura, the corner that we're operating through. That is so good on the opening lap because There's barely anywhere to place your car. How is it from behind the wheel, Marcel? Is this one that you can enjoy once the race develops into a rhythm and the first lap can be a little bit hairy?
Yeah, it can. I mean, it has a nice flow, so usually most drivers enjoy it in Brazil, I think. From the past, remembering Freddie doesn't, but he still want to race here, so yeah. And also for the viewers, if you see these drivers go from left to right, it's not because they're heating up the tires, it's because they're happy to be on track.
Okay, Barry Burman is building up for a push lap. He's not the only one. Thomas Gal. The Haas have had good one-lap pace all year. It's just not translated when we've added a bit of fuel and gone into race conditions.
Yeah, and again, we saw that in Mexico. Gal was P8 and then dropped 4 positions at the end of lap 1. So Haas need to work out their race strategy, their race pace, where they have lacked. I mean, when we say lacked, they lack maybe a 10th. But that is the difference between points and no points in this series.
Marcel, will you talk us round? We're on board with Barry Burman.
I mean, there's a lot of speed already into the uphill section of the middle sector. Now it's getting tricky. You don't want to lock the rears too much, but you also want to get the rear stepping out a little bit for the right hander now into the left. Another difficult corner coming up because you want to, like you see, carry as much speed as possible, lock the wheel and get early on the power. The tires start to overheat at this point. Now the final corner, it's so crucial to attack it as much as possible. Is he taking some inside curve? Yes, he is. That's some good traction. I think that's already looking like a decent lap. Only turn 4.
Tell us about the inside, because now we're flat to the line.
Yeah.
Inside curb debate at turn 12. Tell us about it. Were you surprised to see him use it? Did you use the inside curb?
I mean, yes. In some games, we had to. On some games, we didn't, because it depends how much grip the curbs have. And it looks like there's some decent grip around there. And Nicolas Longuet, one of his, if not his strongest track, being on provisional pole in Q1.
Yeah, Longuet ahead of Boromont. So good to have Marcel here to debate the things that, that have changed game to game, changed through the era. Are you going to touch that curve? Are you going to hook around that corner? All these minor things that when we're going to get a session as close as this one now, make a huge difference where you get to where Thomas Ronhaar, former championship leader, current fastest man, has crossed the line. It all adds up.
Now Otis Lawrence has gone fastest in Q1 as well. It certainly does add up. Freddie Rasmussen crosses the beam. P6. Jarno Wotmir, of course, championship leader now. Can he get in a good Q1 and make it safely through these first couple of hurdles? It's P4 at the moment, which is good enough. Manley's been fantastic in qualifying, but that is a lap he will want to improve on in this second run. Of course, all the drivers leave it so late that they'll have one extra attempt if they fancy it. Otis Lawrence, you may well expect to see retire. And actually, Marcel, I'm quite surprised. It's nearly 4 tenths separating the top 18, and that's bigger than we tend to see around Brazil.
Honestly, if we remove the top 3, I think it's a very close qualifying. These 3 are definitely through. I think Jarno Wotmir is still under risk. So from Jarno, if we ignore the top 3 until P15, it's actually still quite close. It's 1.5 tenths between them, and I think that's more like the more realistic range. But obviously, it's a difficult track to nail. So if the drivers are not fully hooked in, those are the first few laps that they do on this day. They might need a little bit of warm-up, but I think for the next run, we will see even closer lap times and gaps between them.
And where are they finding time? Like, where would be the main points that you think, if I nail that, I'm on to a good one?
I mean, usually you would say the whole track, obviously, but
come on, Marcel, a little
no, the whole track.
I mean,
the whole track.
I mean, there's
a good question.
There's key elements. Like the Senna S, turn 1, 2, especially if you get the car hooked up for the initial corner and then you can just floor it for the second part, you gain already half a tenth. And the first sector is pretty much just brake and accelerate as quickly as possible and then hope that you nailed it. Then the next corner actually into sector 2, turn 4. If you don't take the right amount of curb, you're losing also already half a tenth to a tenth up the hill. In the middle sector, obviously everything matters a lot. And the final corner traction, those are like the biggest area. So middle sector is just keeping it smooth, not making any mistakes. Sector 1 is all about turn 1 because that leads up to turn 2, and the beginning of sector 2 is the most crucial bit of it, and that's turn 4.
Because we had a corner of dread at Mexico,
I like that.
So
yes.
I wanted another one from you for this one, Marcel. Like, what would be? I don't think it is as extreme as what we saw in the first couple of corners in Mexico, but come on, pick one.
I would say either turn 1 or turn 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
There we go. Beautiful.
Dug yourself out of the hole, didn't you?
Yeah.
Nice.
There was no hole, mate. Come on.
2.5 minutes to go. Everyone is chilled out. Basically horizontal.
Including us.
Listen, it's the Quali Show. You tuned in. You know what's going on. We've got 2 of these sessions today, and we're looking forward to both of them. But I have to say, story, of course, because we've got one car not competing in this session, obviously the pressure goes down to the 4 that we're about to lose rather than the 5. Currently, Alvaro Carreton, Joni Tormula back in the Alpine, and Taiho Hardy, who is making his debut, and Fab Donoso, who is back in for Duncan Hoffland in the Aston Martin. So they're the drivers on the cusp of heading out. Yeah, Tom Manley, who has been such a consistent qualifier. Jake Benham in the Mercedes as well. Finds himself in that position. As predicted, Nicolas Longuet has no interest in going out there and seeing how the track conditions are. He's done enough to get through, but who in this very talented gaggle is going to be able to ease their way through? Ishmael Fassi in 8th place, not too far off, but there's the, if you look at the gaps all the way down from Barry Burman, it shows that the track will improve at this stage, and everyone out there has to find an improvement.
Big session for Mercedes. They had a poor day by their standards yesterday. Of course, Jake Benham coming into the car to replace Istvan Pukki for this particular Grand Prix, and Benham has been brilliant in the 3 races he's participated in. Can he make it an excellent 4th as well? Currently 12th. There's a bit of pressure on him for sure. We'll keep an eye on the sector times as they come in, but Benham 12th at the moment.
Okay, the P1 man is out of this session. He's going to be comfortably through into Q2. Let's hear the fastest driver on how to put a good lap together.
That's a pretty good lap.
All right, thought we were going to get
wow.
more detail than that.
Big insight.
Alas, the build-up was longer than the team radio. 30 seconds to go. Game on. Jake Benham, a picture of concentration in the Mercedes. Let's see if it's neat and tidy. You can see top right of your picture that he's improving compared to his previous lap time.
400 slower than the best we've seen in the first sector. He's 700ths up on his overall, but that is a steady middle sector from Benham. How is his final sector going to be? It's a long run to the line. Did he get the exit he wants?
No, he didn't.
I don't think he did. Marcel pointing out that it's not quite as effective as he would like. He does get that improvement. 6th position. That will do. Let's see where we go with Joni Tormula across the line. He is able to go up to 5th. So that shows you that Benham potentially a little bit under pressure, but a good lap for the Alpine driver returning. Barry Burman is back into the pits. He's not intrigued with getting that lap on the board. Lucas Blakely now moves to 6th position. He finds himself P6 at the moment. Ishmael Fassi, top 3 in the points coming into this, goes into 8th place.
Lots of laps coming over the line. Fassi should be okay there. He's got drivers behind. Donoso is out. Manley is out as well.
That's a bit of a shock.
What about Hardy?
And you've got Benham in 14th, Butcher in 15th. Danny Beresnay currently in the drop zone. He was. It's now Butcher in the drop zone. Benham is the driver that we followed over the line first, currently on the bubble. Alfie Butcher is coming in. Alfie Butcher will not progress. He is the shock name to fall in the first part of qualifying, and it will be Butcher, Donoso, Manley, and Taiho Hardy who exit in the first part of qualifying.
A couple of big scalps there, for sure, with Butcher and Manley. Manley's been, as we said, brilliant in qualifying this year. That's very surprising to see him out, and it wasn't even, by F1 sim racing standards, that close. Of course, Manley, 1/4 of a second back, and the cut-off was 0.161 with Jake Benham, who narrowly gets through to the second part of qualifying. There's Hardy. It's showing to be quite difficult in that second seat at Sauber. Brendan Lee struggled this year, and Hardy also. P19 for him on the grid. Marcel, what were your takeaways?
I mean, it's just, in general, again, super, super tight. Not as tight as usual, but you can see the pressure is building up, and every driver, every single year expects, because this track is so short that the gaps are way shorter, and then at the end of qualifying, everyone's like, oh my god, I could have been on pole, I could have been on pole, because everybody is choking for some reason on Brazil. It's so tricky, even though it has some nice flow to it. It's a classic track. So on classic tracks, it seems like most of the drivers are usually tending to make more mistakes, and you can see that clearly here.
Well, Alfie Butcher, Fab Donoso, Tom Manley, and Toho Hardy are the drivers to fall. 4 to go in the first part of qualifying. Fastest was Otis Lawrence, who booked his place in Q2 nice and early. Williams tried to find the form that they had at the start of the year, when it was just pole after pole after pole for Ismail Fassi, who was able to constantly run at the front of the field. That pace is ebbing away. On the left-hand side, you can see that El Soderim not competing. He is enforced out of this session as per his penalty from yesterday. Toho Hardy in 19th, and it's Manley, Fabioso, and Alfie Butcher, who is the driver eliminated, and he will start our race later on today in 16th position. He is speaking right now to Claire Cottingham.
More disappointment, Alfie, it has to be said, in terms of your qualifying this week. What happened this time? Was it just, did you just not hook it up? What kind of went on?
Yeah, so I think preparing for the final lap, it was quite stacked at the last corner where there was a lot of people backing up to start their laps, and our tyres froze up in the rear, and we sort of made a mistake straight away because we just didn't have the grip going into turn 1.
Was that a surprise for you guys, though? Because you've tested this constantly, this track.
Yeah, I think it's a mistake on my behalf as well, so I think it's important to just put it behind us and we look forward to the race.
Talk to me about the qualifying at the moment then. Obviously, yesterday was a bit of a struggle. Today's a struggle. Is it something that's just catching you guys out at the moment?
Yeah, I think at times it just hasn't come together in the sessions, and I think we haven't executed how we wanted to. So I think we'll look to improve in the final 2 qualifyings of the season.
Okay. There was a moment that you were quite disappointed. Let's just hear from you.
God's sake.
Yeah,
unlucky.
Invalidated turn 2.
We'll have to cook something up in the race. Yeah, I just had no tyres. Like, how am I meant to do?
Very disappointed on the radio. It's quite a lot as well to hear you being so vocal on the radio. In your disappointment, usually the McLaren philosophy is kind of carry on, and yet you sounded quite defeated.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's frustrating to have 2 tough qualifiers back to back, but yeah, it is what it is. We put it behind us and we move on.
Where do we go with the race?
Yeah, I think obviously yesterday we came back into the points, so it's always possible to come back. We've done it before, Australia as well, so we'll look to get our way into the points and hopefully finish them with some positives.
Okay, disappointing to speak to you now, but good luck for the race.
Thank you.
Cottingham in conversation with an understandably downbeat Alfie Butcher, who will try and...
I think Benham.
Well, I think he will hope that it's one of those wet races where anything can happen in Sao Paulo.
Exactly that. Reflecting on Q1, has to be said, Otis Lawrence, impressive work to do 1 lap, Otis Lawrence in the Aston Martin, and remain fastest in Q1. So that will be filling the confidence meter for Lawrence, who has a very, very quick driver in qualifying as the cars filter out of the pits for their first run in Q2. A lot of them, as you can see right there. And of course, some of these drivers will be going out on a used set just to put in some kind of banker lap. As we take a look at Alvaro Carreton safely through to Q2. What can he do in the Williams alongside Fassi, championship contender?
Yeah, Alvaro Carreton competed for a number of years. He sat out a couple of races so far this season, and his best qualifying result coming at the end of event 2, when he found himself with the 9th position to start on the grid at the Circuit of the Americas. That will be the aim, and he continues on, about to attack this glorious racetrack into 4.3 kilometers, and the undulations. We've heard from Marcel how difficult these opening corners are. A combination of using curb and keeping the car pointing in the right direction, not losing momentum to any corrections as well. You hear the pip of DRS available in 2 zones around this circuit. Let's look at the curb usage on the outside. Yeah, really nicely judged. He'll be happy with that as he now climbs the hill.
So behind him is Otis Lawrence, who set a very competitive first sector. So was Barry Burman. Carreton a massive half a tenth slower, but these margins are what matter in these qualifying sessions. A lot on the curb there on the inside on that left-hander. Hard on the brakes, hard on the steering lock as well for Carreton. And then it is literally just 1 more braking point to go. Don't dip a wheel on the grass on the right. Try and open up the corner as much as possible. And here comes Alvaro Carreton, who now just waits, tries to minimise the distance to the finish line, keeping on the inside as much as he physically can without getting track limits. And Carreton over the line with a 106.5, which won't really get towards Q3 with that kind of lap, as more laps come over the line now. Gal has gone fastest with a 106.4. Surprisingly, Lawrence actually went slower than that, despite his very quick first sector.
It's Gal, then Benham, then Otis Lawrence, our championship leader, goes to the top of the page for all of a second. It's Longay Town, Sao Paulo, and he's gone back to the head of the field.
He loves this place,
he just
doesn't
loves
he?
it. He just adores this circuit, and he's got a great chance of being in the mix. Once again, great early effort, worth underlining that some drivers will have gone out on used tyres. Some will have gone out there on a fresh set of boots. Here's Thomas Ronhaar, taking a very, very direct route to the line and going fast of anyone so far. Driver trying to respond. And Freddie Rasmussen has gone into P3 ahead of his teammate, Jarno Opmeer, who yesterday started in 5th and won the race, currently in 4th. Then it's Gal, Benham, Lawrence and Burremond. You've got Crozen, Edu, Carreton, Fassi down in 12th position. Blakely, Tormula and Danny Beresnay has not yet put a time that counts on the board and is coasting around.
Yeah, invalidated a 106.508 Beresnay put on the board, but of course did not count due to track limits. And now he is very much trundling back to the pits. No rush for him. And they all, of course, run the absolute minimum fuel load they can and to not carry any extra weight. And they just trundle back on these in-laps. Ronhaar fastest with a 106.317. Impressive lap time for the start of this Q2 session. And he's looking to bounce back from yesterday, as we know.
Yeah, tough time for him. He'll seek solace in what happened here last year, though, because he didn't just win in Brazil last year. He didn't just win in Mexico, he won in Brazil as well. 36 laps, dry conditions. He was the winner last year, the same team that he's with. Beat Alfie Butcher. What a contrast for Alfie Butcher with McLaren compared to how things were in his rookie season. Jarno Opmeer was 3rd last year. Then it was Freddie Rasmussen, Joni Tormula, Lucas Blakely, Brendan Lee, Simon Weigang, not competing this year, then Donoso and Beresnay was our top 10 at the end of the race. And always good, Matt, if you're trying to bounce back from a really difficult result that's seen you lose the championship lead, to come to a race where you know you're a proven winner.
Exactly that. Although Ronhaar, I think, has confidence in himself in the fact that he's been pretty competitive over the last couple of years, no matter where he goes. But as you say, winning around here is a pretty big accomplishment, considering how close the times can be amongst competitors and how crazy the race can be, which you will see, I'm sure, later on today. There is Ronhaar, very much in the zone. His teammate, Hardy, sadly did not make it through to Q2. And what a setup we have. I know we're into the final event. We've been used to this now, but it is awesome to see all the drivers competing in the same room. We get to see all the tension, all the drama unfold before our eyes. And there are both of the Ferrari drivers joking away, watching the broadcast in Q1. Very relaxed environment at Ferrari, although
Barry's been told how much that check will cost for singing Dua Lipa earlier on. And he's going to have to get into the zone.
He's going to win the championship now to pay for that, I think.
Yeah, that's never mind. Never mind. He's in the fight, and it's been great to see him in the fight. Until yesterday, he was the only repeat winner. Jarno Opmeer has joined him in that club. Glug of the water, nearly time to hit the zone. This is where it's going to close up. We currently have 0.08 of a second separating the top 5, and not much by way of improvement needed for Alvaro Carreton, Ismail Fassi, Lucas Blakely, clearly not with fresh tyres and a chance to attack at that stage. Given the gaps, it just wouldn't be that big offset. Danny Beresnay looking for a clean lap time. He would have set a time which was 106.5. He was, where would he have been if it had counted? He would have found himself in 10th position. So he's looking for an efficient run through the field. Everyone's on the outlaps and pushing on once again. Still 7 minutes to go, so still a long way to go in this part of the session. And
but we've got cars out on track.
We do.
Here we go.
So I will always take at all times of day We've talked about Ronhaar bouncing back. Talk about the season for Nicolas Longuet, driver in second place. When you've been putting the hours in, it's not been breaking your way. It took it really hard in event 1 and event 2. He will be desperate for his time in the sun. Freddie Rasmussen knows he's not going to retain his title, won last year, but he can still help Red Bull do what they have been so good at doing in recent times and claiming the team's championship. But it was Ferrari last year, and they'll want to push them all the way to the end. And there is a second Ferrari, as if by magic. Barry Burman about to come through. And he crosses the line, trying to make that turn in as wide as possible. I think Kimi Antonelli's been watching these lines, you know, because he's all over the curves.
Yeah, he loves it.
Every single turn in, and every single time he does it, I'm thinking, you're taking the sim racing line down there. We're heading to turn number 4 with Barry Burman, a contender for the title still with 3 races to go.
Yeah, these drivers are trendsetters, Alex. That's what this is. Barry Burman, as you can see on the top right-hand side of your screen, 700th up, a purple first sector for Barry, and a fresh set of boots to try and set a time good enough to get through to Q3. And the improvements still keep coming. 1.5 tenths, which is not a massive margin in a lot of F1 tracks, but around here, any improvement is massive, and it continues to build. He's getting towards 2 tenths now as we get to the final braking zone of the lap. Can he maximise this exit? Yeah.
Almost endures that curve, doesn't he? Almost has to bounce off it.
It's not a
part
nice
of the
curve,
process.
but it can work, and it's a purple sector 1, it's a purple sector 2. What is Barry Burman going to put on the board?
Tight as possible to the high wall, and Barry Burman goes to the front of the field. Otis Lawrence comes over the line in second place. Thomas Gau is currently in third. Ferrari 1-2 is separated by exactly 100th of a second between Burman and Longuet. Then it's Lawrence, Gau, Ronhaar, Caraton, Rasmussen, Opmeer, Tormola, and then Lucas Blakely pops up into 8th position. Fassi, third in the points, goes into what was 6th, now down to 7th. Josh Edu in the Alpine has improved to that position. Freddie Rasmussen goes to the top of the pile. Tidy lap time that. He's gone 700ths clear of the field, 5 minutes to go.
What about Opmeer's teammate? 11th at the moment. Of course, this is his first representative lap time of Q2. Won yesterday. Can he put himself in a strong position? It's P5, which is okay, but it won't give him too much confidence. And speaking of not lacking the confidence, Danny Beresnay down in 11th with his lap time. Mercedes appearing to lack a little bit of speed over 1 lap in this event so far, but you can never discount the Mercedes drivers. They know how to put themselves in the hunt. Beresnay, of course, caught up in that Ronhaar incident in Mexico. But they are very, very good with their strategy this season long. Freddie Rasmussen, you can never discount him, can you? You really can't. Red Bull have come out the blocks firing in Event 3, and they want that team's championship.
He is the most successful driver in terms of wins and points in the sim racing championship history. You're on board with his teammate, who is in 5th position at the moment, won from 5th yesterday. So it won't be too... Anytime he's in the top 10, you're like, okay, let's make a little note on the grid where Jarno is, because we're going to be talking about him later on.
And then they're like, how many laps has he stayed out for? Yeah. Oh, okay, so he's on 4 lap fresher tyres than me, and he's how many 2 seconds behind me? Oh, fantastic. Just let him through at that point.
So the pit lane is a hive of activity. The drivers are coming back to the pit lane, and we're into the last chance saloon. If you're in the drop zone, Danny Beresnay, so probably needed to err on the side of caution going into that second run, and as a result might have left a little bit on the table. Then Blakely, Tormola, Bennon and Crozen are our drivers to head out. That would leave us with all the major contenders for the title safely through into Q3, which you would expect. There are 3 minutes and 20 seconds remaining. Just give you an idea of what track conditions they're dealing with. 31 degrees track temperature, 22 air, so nice and in the window for what they would have practiced in all the way through. Jake Benham, Danny Beresnay are in your picture. You're looking at Joni Tormola, driver who finished in 5th at this race last year, but he needs a lap to progress into the top 10 in the next 2 minutes and 52 seconds.
Yep, back in the seat is Tormola. Shabakonyi, of course, involved yesterday. To see Joni back in and through safely out of Q1. But as you say, we'll need a lap. And looking at the drivers under pressure as we enter into these final laps. Fassi, of course, championship contender, currently in 9th position. Almost a couple of tenths off the fastest of Freddie Rasmussen. The two Mercedes boys, as we've said, trying to secure a team's championship for Mercedes. Josh Idu's been reasonably impressive so far, up in 8th. And Tamas Gal, once again, in the Haas, P6.
They've only got 1 point all year, Haas.
Yeah.
But on one lap, it's like the real team used to be years ago. Brilliant in qualifying, and then you go, how on earth did they finish down there?
If you had normal race points for qualifying, Gal would be probably in the top 8 or something.
Well, you take the positives with that. He's got good core speed, just has to develop on. The rest of the teams will be looking at that, I'm sure, for future years. 2-minute warning. Everyone's pouring back out onto the racetrack. So, of our main contenders for the title, Otmar and Fassi will be looking at sorting things out on the racetrack. Our main contenders as well out front. Freddie Rasmussen, that's a really tidy lap time considering the stage of the session that we're in. To go 700ths clear when the margins between the big hitters are so tiny.
Yeah, that's feet up territory. That's Freddie Rasmussen not needing to go out again, which will be good for him in Q3. He can save a set of tyres, doesn't have to push in this final part of Q2, which again, I don't think for Freddie you need confidence building, but this is a different Freddie to what we saw in Event 1, where it has to be said that's where his chances of retaining the title slipped away. Of course, mathematically possible. We can't say anything categorically right now, but he's miles behind.
Probably. Well, the first part of the sentence was so positive. Freddie Rasmussen's still got a big part to play in this race, in the Teams Championship. Barry Borremont is the driver in your picture. His teammate directly behind, hoping there's no drama from him. They're pushing on. They're nice and comfortable out front, but we have plenty to decide. Who makes it through? It's very, very tight between those looking over their shoulder, including former championship leader Thomas Ronhaar, who bailed out of his second push lap.
Here we go then. Barry very much even at the moment with his current lap time. Of course, he is in P2, so he'll be feeling reasonably confident about making it through, but it is 700ths between himself and Rasmussen. As, again, he's going to have to find the time in this final sector because he is not up on his previous lap time. Is he going to improve at all? It's a slightly better exit. It might be thousandths he gets by the time he comes over the line, but Borremont does not look seemingly like he's going to improve.
No, right at the end, and he finds himself coming across the line. Rasmussen, then Longuet. Borremont didn't find the lap time that he needed. Josh Idu in 8th will be vulnerable if anyone can find an improvement. Let's see further forward. It's not going to be Lucas Blakely because he's pulling back into the pits. Alvaro Carreton is currently in 10th position, and he stays in 10th position. Yellow flag is out sector 1. Fassi is down to 10th place here on the bubble. Big moments, and Fassi comes over the line. And he remains in 10th place, so a little bit of concern for him. And down to 11th. So Thomas Ronhaar is now across the line, and Thomas Ronhaar goes second fastest. Crozen gets through, Gal gets through, Ido gets through, and the driver in 3rd position in the points table coming into this one is out in 11th place. 8th going into the second runs. It's Fassi, then Carreton, then Beresnay, who just didn't seem to hook it up across the lap. We saw abandoned laps for Blakely and Tormala, but Fassi, the main headline, he's out in Q2.
Oh, missing out by 8 thousandths of a second. You could see his disappointment on his face when he was about to finish his final lap there. He knew he hadn't improved. You could see it by the delta. And Fassi, sadly for him, starts 11th. I think the one saving grace is that it's Brazil, and it's not as if he's starting right at the back. He will have a chance of good points, but it's not easy. You don't want to be starting the Brazilian Grand Prix from 11th in the literal middle of the pack where carnage and chaos can ensue. But a fantastic performance from both the Haas drivers, 8th and 9th. They're both through to Q3. Can they score some points? We'd love to see it. As you say, they have struggled massively this year. But 3 of the 4 championship contenders, one of them being right there, Thomas Ronhaar on your screen, through to Q3.
Ismail Fassi, 15 points behind our championship leader, Jarno Opmeer, the main contender, the main headline, you have to say, in 11th place. He is out along with teammate Alvaro Carreton, Danny Beresnay, Lucas Blakely, and Joni Tormala. And there is our former champ, Lucas Blakely, not taking part in our top 10 shootout to decide who starts on pole position for our always entertaining race in Brazil. Okay, the main story, Ismail Fassi, knocked out in Q2. He's talking to Claire Cottingham.
Yeah, definitely the big story of qualifying, Ishmael. Not what you need at this time in the championship, is it really?
Definitely not. I made a silly mistake in sector 2 at the end that pretty much cost me the time for Q3. I'm quite disappointed because this track I felt really good. It's just that sector 2 was really hard to nail it, and yeah, made a mistake, paid the price for it, but still P11. So yeah, we will see what we can do.
P11 is a good place as well in some ways to start with Brazil because it can be a bit of a chaotic one. Yesterday we saw and we thought Mexico was going to be chaotic until obviously the pit stop started. From 11th though, what is there to do in Brazil?
I really don't know. We will see. I don't know. We will try our best. I really hope that we get a good start and then we can cook the strategy. So yeah, we will see.
Haven't heard Cook at all this event. Thank you so much for that. Bad luck for this point, but good luck for the race.
Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. Thank you, Ishmael. Thank you for using Cook. Always enjoy that.
Yep, take that one off.
Smuggled it in. Understandably, a little bit downbeat, but it wasn't going to be top 5 on the evidence of the session at all. It's not like there's a mistake there that's led to it. It just didn't seem to have the overall pace compared to the other heavy hitters in this championship across the entirety of Q1 or Q2.
Yeah, it's a completely different story for Fassi than what we saw in event 1. He was absolutely the man to beat. 3 poles out of 4 in the first 4 races in event 1. But event 2, it really did slip away from him, 12th to 17th. Got a great second place in Zandvoort, and then 6th in the US. And it's just not been the same Fassi and Williams team that we saw so brilliantly in that first event. And it has to be said that some of the other teams have picked up their game. They've clearly seen that they were behind after event 1 and done a lot of homework, a lot of research, and we're seeing that pecking order change into the final event.
Yeah, 4 times on the front row this year, Ismail Fassi. 5 times in the top 5, 3 times on pole position, but not with the one-lap pace around Brazil. He will hope that it's one of those races and that it turns into an all-out brawl. Anything can happen here. It's why we relish racing so much. And now it's time with our top 10 shootout. I'm not sure I would have picked out this top 10 at the start of the session. That's why you've got to watch the qualifying broadcast to find out who makes it through. Nothing for granted in this season of surprises. Otmar, Burman, Rasmussen, Benham, the Haas pair, Gal, Krozen, Thomas Ronhaar, Nicholas Longe seems restored back to his confident best, and then Josh Edu also competing alongside the man that we are on board with, Otis Lawrence, looking for another pole position in F1 sim racing.
Not sure this lap will be pole position, but let's see. It's a very competitive first sector from Otis Lawrence. Very dialed in, as you can see from the camera in his simulator rig. Hard into this double right-hander we go. Huge amount of downforce. These cars are stuck in, and that's one way to take that right-hander. The back end stepping out quite an aggressive amount there, as that would make the rear tyres scream ever so slightly as we enter into the second part of this lap. Lawrence still very much just trying to pick up as much data as possible, but that's called tyres running out of life.
I would love it if that was the fastest way round.
Yeah.
The precision these drivers show always astounds me, but just occasionally I'd love it if a bit of oversteer was the fastest route around the circuit. Thomas Ronhaar has put a 1 minute 6.130 on the board. And he's gone round, set his lap time. Josh Edu finding himself a couple of tenths off the back. Barry Burman to 10th off. Early punches being thrown at the start of Q3. Business end in 8 minutes' time is going to decide who starts at the front of the field.
So that's Ronhaar using his extra set of tyres there. So that is a very competitive lap time from Ronhaar, 106.130. and that will put him towards the front of the field once all the laps have been said and done. I am very sure of that. Whether it'll be pole position, we'll have to wait and see. The track will ramp up. Can we see a 106 flat? Not far away with Ron Haar's current time, as some of the other drivers out there, of course, have had a few extra bites of the cherry through the first couple of qualifying sessions, and that's why we're seeing a big discrepancy with the likes of Tamas Gal with a 106.6, Jarno Opmeer 106.4, Josh Edu with a 106.4 as well. But that is a very strong lap to start this Q3 session for Thomas Ronhaar.
Is indeed. So confidence he will derive from that lap. Again, talking about the foundation, I feel that we say it all the time, but he's got one now. He's got a really good one to push further. Exactly what he needs to try and repeat what he did last year and win this race. One of two today. We're racing in Brazil, we're racing in Qatar, and Nicolas Longuet is pouring out of this pit lane. Long pit lane that we have. It goes on and on and on, and then you are launched onto the racetrack. Longuet's season, flashes of real pace, but the driver hasn't been on the podium at all. And if you'd asked me to bet one way or the other whether that was going to be the case by the time we got to Sao Paulo, I would have lost a bit of money. Because
we all would have.
has been superb in previous years, but hasn't quite found the balance with this year's game. He's looking to change all of that with a performance that would require a rapid lap right about now. His best result of the season so far is a 4th place at Silverstone.
He scored in all but 3 of the races he's participated in, which is actually, he scored in more races than his teammate Barry Burremand, but he hasn't had those big performances in order to really rack up the points tally. Of course, his teammate has won a couple. He's been second twice as well. And as you mentioned, Longuet, no podium, and he's 11th in the Drivers' Championship right now. Here we go then, Joris Krozen starting a lap. Incredibly impressive from both Haas drivers so far in this qualifying session and just generally in qualifying. Can he hook up another lap to be right in the mix when we head into the race later today?
Sometimes you see a smattering of curb into turn 2 of the Senna S. That was a whole heap of it that he was taking onto his plate. Driver who doesn't have a point so far this year, best result of 11th, will desperately want to change that before the season is out. And we're heading into Fedadura. Look at the speed he's able to carry through here. Car rotating wonderfully. And then this is the first time you see a huge amount of steering lock applied, and it continues around this infield section. Looks really dialed in for the Haas driver.
It's a purple first sector for Joris Krozen, as much as it says green. I think this is the fastest we've seen so far in this session. What's the middle sector saying as well? It's a 10th off Ronhaar, so he might well have lost it in the middle part of the lap, but is he running a little less downforce, and he'll gain this back in sector 3.
Interesting use of the curb on the apex of turn 12. In corner, and now by the time we get to the line, Joris Krozen goes into a well-earned 2nd place. Nicolas Longuet comes across the line and he finds himself 800ths back. So Longuet not able to find that lap time that he was looking for. 9 minutes to go, though. There is 5 minutes to go, rather, I should say. It's still a long way. Oh, Lawrence having the brake attraction when he didn't need it. Like we saw before on the lap that didn't matter, this one did.
It was a big lap up until that point. First sector was brilliant. Second sector was only half a 10th off. Where does he end up? It's still P2 with that.
What a performance that must have been around the other turns. Only 200 off. Thomas Ronhaar, top of the pile from an early run. Freddie Rasmussen looked really good in Q2. What about Q3? He finds himself into 3rd position. Ronhaar, then Otis Lawrence, then Freddie Rasmussen. Krozen's lap puts him 700ths off pole position. He hasn't got a point all year long. That's the lap of his season, surely, so far. Talking of which, Jarno Opmeer into contention. Jarno Opmeer only 8th. He's not too far away in terms of the time. Barry Burman's in the pits at the moment. But look at the Haas pair. Whatever they've done around this circuit is working. They're 4th and 5th right now, with Thomas Ronhaar pushing on.
Here we go. He's not improving this time. He'll be coming into the pits as Ronhaar. And we'll have one final attempt at a quicker lap time. But Ronhaar, yeah, brilliant from him. His first attempt.
That's the first lap. Still
top of the pile.
Yeah, top of everyone so far. 200s back, Otis Lawrence. Looking really good in qualifying trim, isn't he?
And what's he left on the table as well, Alex? Like that, the step out that he had before he entered that final straight, that was pole.
Otis Lawrence in 2nd, Freddie Rasmussen in 3rd. Krozen finds himself in 4th position. Tamas Gal is the driver who scored Haas's only point of the season so far, with 10th place in Saudi Arabia. needed a bit of a destruction derby as well in order to get into that top 10, but they've done brilliantly in this session. They're the standout story amid all the championship narratives. Championship narratives, Jarno Opmeer in 8th, behind both Ferraris. Thomas Ronhaar will go, you know what, that's enough.
Let's stop now.
Let's just call it quits at this stage, and we'll see you for the race. There is the man leading the points, coming back to the pits, 3 minutes to go. Jake Benham's in 9th to complete your order, to finish your order, which I somehow combined into one word there at the first attempt. Stuff it, Matt, stuff it. Josh Edu in 10th, and 3 minutes to go. I don't know how this one's going to end. I'm loving this session. You're looking at the surprise pair, though. Haas stepping forward. 3 races to go. And 4th and 5th would just be absolutely terrific. Eyebrow raise indeed, my friend.
And they've got a brilliant banker. Now they can just go for it in this final lap. Imagine they still pole. Double their points tally with a pole position. That would be quite some story.
I have to say, we were on board. I'm really pleased we were on board with Josh Krozen's lap. It looked phenomenal.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, okay, they haven't scored a point all year, but this has got to be quick, because if people are doing better than this, and they are out there, if 3 drivers have done better than that, it just shows you how lofty this standard is. Krozen with what would be standout performance of his season, and then some. He has 10th place earlier this year, and 4th would be mighty. Let's get some team conversation.
Is it time to send?
Well, yes.
Well, yes.
Is it time to send it?
It is time to send it, and it's one of our favourite bits of the entire day as a result. This is interesting. Barry Burman out early.
Indeed he is. I wonder what sending it entirely means for Lawrence, because he sent it a bit too hard round that penultimate corner, which cost him provisional pole. How much more has he got in the locker? Saying sending it. We could see some very fast times in this final part of Q3, and it could all change. This is the order right now. We're celebrating Haas's performances, but that could easily be 9th and 10th if they don't improve in this final lap. So let's see. Here we go.
Nice and wide open, the final build laps being completed, and then everyone is out of the pits. Everyone is pushing on for a final run, looking for an answer. Top of the billing for this thrilling conclusion to Q3. 1 minute on the clock. Barry Borremond trying to launch himself up into contention. He's got plenty of time to find, considering the margins around this circuit, but we're going to see if he can do it. Senna S's as he bids for a front row start. Of course, he's aiming for pole position. Let's see comparison. He is gaining time all the way round. He'll need more of it if he's going to take provisional pole.
Yeah, he got a great exit out of turn 2 to gain 200ths, and now into this fast left-hander. Can he get... Oh, just no! Track limits!
Oh,
track limits for Burremand.
That leaves him vulnerable. The track time invalidated all 4 wheels beyond the painted white line. We feature now Otis Lawrence in our attentions.
He sent it too hard in that first sector, Alex, who's half a tenth down on his previous lap time. But remember, he left a little bit of time on the table in the final sector. So let's see if Otis can just stay within that sort of half a tenth window, and he's gaining. Can he make this corner count?
How greedy is he going to be? Wait, and you heard the feather of the throttle, but that's quick, and now he's gaining. He's got to make up 23 thousandths of a second. He's currently on 12. Can he get any more? 14, 17, 19, where does it go?
Yes!
Oh my word, he did exactly the same time, but he did it second. Josh Edu! Josh Edu!
What about Longuet?
Longuet finds himself to 4th, he can't get there. Edu's done it by 9 thousandths of a second, identical lap time, but Ronhaar has second place because he set the time first. Otis Lawrence, Jarno Opmeer, the man who's always quick in the races. The same time again! How can this be repeated? What is going on? Haas on pole! And here comes Thomas Ronhaar to try and spoil the Haas party. Hey, he got it at the last! Thomas Ronhaar with provisional pole. What on earth just happened? What on earth just happened? That is absolutely outrageous. What does the timing page even say?
How's Edu finished 5th? He was on pole about 30 seconds ago.
Dutch 1, 2, 3. Ronhaar, Krozen, Opmeer. That is outrageous. Rasmussen in 4th. Sorry about the volume. Currently coming out.
Don't apologise. Don't apologise.
Josh Edu in 5th. Otis Lawrence is in 6th position. He is 400ths back and he's in 6th. Nicholas Longate, 500ths back, he's in 7th. Then it's Jake Benham, Tam Haskell and Barry Borremand. Joris Krozen has his personal best by a country mile in F1 sim racing. He's starting from the front row. Our points leader is starting from 3rd, and the man who wants to take his championship lead away, Thomas Ronhaar, in the end, by 26 thousandths of a second, 200ths of a second, gets the job done. He was last over the line. He's first when we line up for the race.
That is absolutely ridiculous what we've just seen. Improvement after improvement after improvement. Alex Jakes is joking.
I'm literally spluttering with what we've just seen.
So let's just reflect on that for a second. We had Otis Lawrence come over the line that we were riding on board with. It came up with fastest lap, but it was the same lap as Ron Haas at the time.
Yeah, so he was 2nd.
Then you had Edu come over the line and take provisional pole.
Which is a brilliant performance from him.
Then Freddie came over and took it. Oh no, was it Jarno? Because then Freddie set the same time.
So we had 2 ties in the process of that session. So the 2 Red Bulls tied. Lawrence tied with Ron Haas' first run. Then we had a tie between Red Bull drivers after Jarno Opmeer, who traditionally more impressive in the races than 1 lap. Rasmussen ties his teammate. And then Joris Krozen is like, cool story, guys. How about I take provisional pole? The only driver who could take it away was Thomas Ronhaar, and he did. Sign me up for more of that. That is absolutely glorious. And we have had an incredible, incredible session.
Half a tenth separating the top 7. Surely that is the closest margin we've ever seen in F1 sim racing.
Sometimes,
history.
Matt, commentary is about nuance and detail and packing in the information, and sometimes it's just about shouting surnames over the line. Full Peter Drury mode. That was absolutely wonderful to call. And if the racing is anything like that, we've got a Dutch 1-2-3. We've got Joris Krozen's personal best in sim racing when it comes to qualifying. We've got Jarno Opmeer exceeding where he qualified yesterday. He won from 5th yesterday, he starts from 3rd. Ronhaar taking pole position, and a satisfying one at that. Let's hear from the man who's taken pole. He's speaking to Claire Cottingham.
I mean, pole position indeed, but what a moment to do it. As we were saying, the commentators shouting just names by the end. You were the last to come across the line again, but pole position, I mean, that was very impressive. Is it something about being last across the line?
Maybe it's my lucky charm, I don't know. But yeah, when I came across the line, I saw Joris' name come up, and I was quite surprised. I'm happy for him, of course, to be on the front row. He, in practice, I know his times, he's been very, very quick. And yeah, it's only a matter of time until he can show what he's capable of doing. Same goes for plenty of others. Unfortunately, Tigo made a mistake in Q1, which made him exit. Otherwise, he would have been easily through. But yeah, I'm sure in the race he'll come back, and especially Qatar later on, he's looking very, very confident. So yeah, in terms of that, I don't think there's anything that we need to worry about. For myself, of course, 2nd pole in a row. I don't know if it's my first time back-to-back poles in my career, but yeah, very happy to start in P1.
I mean, you sound chilled at the moment, but let's just hear what you sounded like after taking pole position.
Come on!
Good job, mate.
Very happy, it has to be said, crossing the line. Talk me through your lap, though. Were you happy with what you did?
I think the lap was quite messy, actually. I think my sector 1 was really slow. My first lap was actually on used tyres. And many people might have thought I was on new tyres, but it was like 2% tyre wear because I backed off on my first lap in Q2. So that way I could sort of get like a new used-ish run in, which was a good lap. But then, yeah, out of turn 1, I was half a turn down on my last lap. So I thought, okay, I need to send it now in sector 2. Did a really good sector 2. And then, yeah, of course, I saw like, I think 4 or 5 names pop up. I think George was first, and then Jarno, Freddie, and then Joris in the end. But yeah, the Delta, I think, showed on my lap that I was going to be good enough for P1.
Mad qualifying. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Wow. Wow. How are you two feeling after that? Are your voices okay?
Oh, calm down, Ariana. Honestly,
We weren't
it wasn't
that
that
loud.
exciting.
No.
It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
That was so much fun. I mean, sometimes you're just trying to tell the story, and then sometimes everyone's so closely matched that you're just like, let's find out and see what the time says, and then if they've done well, holler their name as loud. Fantastic.
Matt, we said that Brazil was going to deliver action. My goodness, what on earth was that?
Yeah, I mean, I was concerned after Q1. I was like, oh no, we've hyped this up a little bit too much. There's 2.5 tenths separating them. This is not
You were
good.
panicking, weren't
And no, I'm plenty wrong a lot of the time, so I'm used to it. But 7 drivers separated by half a tenth. It just brings a smile to my face. This is why we do this. It's just so much fun. But yeah, we have to also be quite careful about our voices because we've got 3 more shows coming up.
Point.
So we really have peaked.
You definitely have peaked, but it's okay. The action's going to continue coming, and your voices are going to stay. I'm sure of it. I'm confident.
Well, you'll take over if not, right?
Oh,
Cool.
Shrieking over the comms. No one wants to hear that. Ron Hart needed that today after yesterday. Yesterday was troublesome. Today, he's completely reeled it back in, and what a way to do it, and what a way to set the tone for the rest of the day, right?
We said in the post-show yesterday how he responds to that 25-point swing is going to be everything. There's your response. A little bit annoyed. Everyone else is separated by hardly anything. He's a little bit annoyed with his lap.
Is that a bit messy?
Yeah. Bit messy.
Yeah.
That's the perfect mentality. He's still a contender for this title. He's in a great position.
And can we talk Haas? My goodness, they pulled that out the bag, Matt.
They did. Crozen with a miraculous lap to be on the front row of the grid. A Dutch 1-2-3 is quite the achievement as well. But yeah, it's a shame for Crozen because that would have been a point for Haas, which would have been nice to see. Ron Hart, of course, stealing that away right at the end, which is really important for his championship bid. But the important thing now, because we've praised Haas many times in qualifying, don't lose 3-4 positions at the start. Don't go for a crazy strategy. Don't start on the softs. You know, just things like that. Just go with the pack, please.
What did Marcel Kiefer suggest starting on
Don't
the
listen to him.
Okay, fine.
No,
Okay.
no, we're not listening to him. And we have Jarno Opmeer up in P3 as well. I mean, it might have been a good qualifying for Ron Hart, but whenever Opmeer is that close, it's something to be worried about.
He's in the mix, isn't he? He's in the conversation to win. Anytime he's in the top 5, he's an absolute danger man. Intrigued to see how Crozen's presence in between our 2 contenders for the title shakes out later on as well.
And also Fassi out in Q2. I mean, in terms of the championship standings, that's a real blow, isn't it, Matt?
It is. He's been on the back foot after event 2, it has to be said, when you compare it to his first 4 races in this championship. It's not a lot, it's not massive. He could have easily scraped through to Q3, started P7, but that's just the way this championship unfolds. P11 isn't an absolute disaster. Of course, you know, when we speak to him immediately out of the sim rig, of course it's going to be down in the dumps, but it's not the end of the world. It's Brazil. It could rain. We've got plenty of things coming up.
Anything could happen in the race later. But for now, let's head over to Marcel, who's going to take us through that lap and some comparisons.
Guys, how are you? So, very, very exciting session here in Interlagos. And Thomas Röner again on pole, another extra point. I think he's now on 100 points in total. And this lap was nothing else than perfection. So heading into turn 1, jugging it down into 4th gear. He's actually avoiding the inside curb, now cutting a lot in turn 2 throughout the center S, now staying tight to minimize track distance, activating the DRS, heading into the end of sector 1, but actually he's a bit down on his time, which is not good. Like, he's actually quite slow there. Usually a fast first sector is the 17.05 or something like that, but he made it up in turn 4 immediately, now heading uphill just into 6th gear, small little lift, braking down into 3rd, close to actually getting an invalidation. Now hooking it up on the left side of the curb to get the maximum rotation, back onto the throttle in 3rd gear, 4th, 5th, and down again into 3rd, locking the steering wheel to the right, early back on the power, staying tight again to minimize the track distance. Now he's already purple with a 50.209 split, back onto the power, and this is just enough to set it on pole in such a competitive session. The only driver to go into the 6 minutes and not 6 minutes, 6 seconds 0 lap times, and that was amazing.
Thank you very much for that, Marcel. That was lovely. I like that we can just peek over there and see him. It's great, isn't it?
Biggest studio I'm in all year long, and we're next to each other.
We're just taking away all the illusion here that the producers want, but it's okay. We're going to head over now to Claire, and I believe Claire has found her way to her corner.
I have indeed. And again, once again, a very chilled out Jana. You just told me it's because of your back. So it's
doesn't hurt, but I think...
Should we have the microphone? Should we go for that one? There we go. Right, let's talk about qualifying, shall we, instead? You and Freddie set exactly the same time. Quite impressive.
Yeah, it is quite often around Brazil this happens because it's, for some reason, everyone is really close. Even though there's quite a lot of corners, you can make up decent time. I guess the track distance makes it a lot closer. We saw that in Q1 and Q2. And in Q3 again, the whole field is pretty much covered in 2/10. So yeah, this happens every year on Brazil. So it happened again.
How are you feeling ahead of this final round? Are you thinking that this could be... I mean, there's predictions everywhere between the team championships and Red Bull coming back into it and obviously now leading the way. It's a good time to be leading the championship, isn't it?
It's always a good time to lead the championship because it means you've got a point advantage. But... yeah, we just have to take it race by race because there's still 3 races to go, 75 points to be taken. Actually more. I forgot about the pole position point again. And faster lap points, of course. So yeah, every point's going to count. And yeah, very simply, we'll see what happens. Obviously, we'll try and do everything in my power to win again. But always easier said than done.
No, absolutely. What would it mean to you, though, at this point in your career, moving over to Red Bull to wrap up that championship, not only, you know, maybe the constructors, but as the drivers too?
Yeah, it's always nice to come into a new team and then straight away win the championship, of course. Nonetheless, I'll try to win the championship every year, not just when I swap teams. So yeah, obviously it always means a lot to win the championship, and that's why we're doing this. So yeah.
Would it be surprising coming over to a new team and being so dominant, or were you very confident? Obviously, I know you were confident coming over to Red Bull as a team and alongside Freddie as well, the reigning champion. But, you know, that does really kind of set a marker, doesn't it?
Yeah, of course. I mean, since the first race we did in league racing, I was pretty much up to pace, feeling comfortable. Obviously, still had to improve a lot, but that's what we're working on pretty much every single day. So. Yeah, working with Freddie has been great because he's incredibly fast. I don't think there's been a track this year where he has not been faster than me. So yeah, it's really easy working with him.
Yeah, well, it's a good partnership as well between the two of you. For the race, how are we feeling?
Very good. Of course, always better for the race. Simply because I'm better in the race than in qualifying. So. Okay.
I like the just clear Dutch about that, just like absolutely good in the race. Thank you so much for chatting to us. I appreciate your time. Let's head back over to Ariana.
Thank you very much, Claire and Jarno. He's sounding very, very chilled there, very calm, and also a bit eerily confident for the race. A bit unnerving.
And I can see why, given his history in the championship. What I think is intriguing is that you've got many drivers at the front who are confident in their abilities and a total wild card in Jonas Kroes. I think that's a great dynamic to go in there. Otmir's going to believe he can win. Ron Haar's going to believe he can win. They're looking like our top 2 in the championship now. But Jonas Kroes, he's all in for the win, so who knows?
Matt, I mean, it is setting us up for an exciting race later on. Brazil does anyway, but this starting grid is quite something. What are you expecting? How do you think this could play out?
What am I expecting about a Brazilian
race?
race?
Yeah, come on. Give us something,
Let's
Matt.
predict this one. No, it's going to be just utter chaos. You've got Kroes on, as we've just said, right? He's going to want to win or at least score a huge amount of points for Haas. Like, this is a good opportunity for Haas to maybe not finish last in the teams.
Yeah.
If he can finish on the podium, that is a massive haul of points.
You've only just got over the fact that you had that stat ready to go, that they doubled their points tally for the year.
Yeah. Just very close. It's very close. But it's fine. It's only 1 point. He'd rather have 25 later on. So there's Kroes, of course. Freddie Rasmussen right there with Otmir. So you've got a Red Bull duo on the second row of the grid.
I was about to say that could come in
scary.
quite nicely, couldn't it?
Exactly, because we've already seen from Mexico, Freddie is more than happy to play the team game to help Jarno. And Jarno, as we've just said about his confidence, the fact that he knows he hasn't got to overtake many cars into the race when he is probably the strongest in the race. I think that's why we always applaud his strategies, is because he always makes it work in the race. The fact that he's third, he's got to be the favourite going into the Grand Prix. But then even further down, you've got Ferrari, again, disappointing from qualifying. The fact that they weren't able to translate that pace that they were starting to show. So, yeah, storyline on storyline.
Absolutely. We've spoken a lot about Crozer. Let's hear his team comms, shall we, from that session.
Come on, Nate! Yeah!
Go!
Get in there, mate! No, you got us!
I mean, that's lovely, isn't it? That is so nice to hear. We often hear the drivers getting very excited and animated, but you can only imagine how much that means to that team and that driver.
When you've done an entire campaign and you've put all the hours in, and there's so many hours that they put in, and you've got 1 point between the two of you, and suddenly you're on the front row. Magic.
It is lovely. I want to pick up on Ferrari, which you mentioned, Matt. I mean, not the results that they would have wanted there for qualifying, but anything can happen at Brazil, but still, it's putting them on the back foot, isn't it?
It's the story of their season where they just haven't been able to capitalise on the potential that they've got in that team. Longuet, I think, will be reasonably happy with 7th, because that's kind of where he's sort of sat when he has scored points. Barry, of course, track limits on his final lap. He was the only one, I think, to make that mistake. Maybe Gal as well, actually, but not many out there to make that final mistake on the push lap where the track is at its fastest. So Burman from 10th, it's going to be a difficult one. Of course, he's alongside Fassi. They're both considered still championship contenders. Can they move forward? Only time will tell.
It is time now to go to the starting grid. I know how much you guys enjoyed this yesterday. So,
Do you not want to take
No,
a seat?
I really liked it a lot from you two.
All right. Okay. Well, Eli Zelzoderim, he is going to be allowed to compete after having to sit out qualifying. He's next to Tacho Hardy, who's making his debut from the back row.
Oh, you've thrown to me. So that's Tom Manley in P18, alongside Fabrizio Donoso. A pretty difficult qualifying. Alex, row 8?
Alfie Butcher will be commencing his race from 16th. He'll be alongside Joni Tormala, who placed in the top 5 here 1 year ago.
Beautiful stat. A former champion in Lucas Blakely starts in 14th alongside Daniel Beresne. Probably one of the most disappointing qualifyings he's had so far in this campaign.
But you can never count him out. He's been a contender all the way through. Williams occupy the next row. Alvaro Caraton is next to his countryman and still championship contender, Ishmael Fassi. He goes from P11.
Speaking of championship contenders, Barry Burman, P10, disappointing qualifying, and Tamas Gal making Q3 once again, but his teammate up on the front row.
Very, very enjoyable. To move to the next row, 2 great contenders. Jake Benham, P8, next to Nicholas Longuet, who goes superbly well around Sao Paulo. Expect him to move forward later on.
To the 3rd row we go. Otis Lawrence, P6. What can he do from there? And Josh Edu. What a fantabulous performance in P5.
It really was. I appreciate that word. I appreciate an all Red Bull 2nd row. Frederick Rasmussen in 4th. Jarno Opmeer in 3rd. He spells danger when he's inside the top 5. The front row of the grid is read by Matthew Galaga.
Whom is on pole, you ask? It's Thomas Ronha alongside Joris Krozen. Can he deliver a storyline for the ages later on? Ariana?
That was beautiful.
Well, I mean, it was suggested yesterday that our grid reading was unhinged, so I wanted to bring a bit of decorum, a little bit of decorum back to sim racing.
And can I just say you did just that. Thank you both very much. And thank you all at home for joining us for the qualifying show. Thank you to Marcel and Claire as well. We go racing very shortly, so make sure you join us back for what promises to be an action-packed race around Brazil. We'll see you soon.